What's up, you guys? Welcome to Odds On Favorites, a brand new show to bring you guys all the sports betting info you could possibly want. My name is Cody. I'm going to be hosting the show, and I'll be bringing in my sports betting experts from GamblingSites.org, Rick Rockwell and Taylor Smith. Super pumped to be working with these guys. I'm going to let them introduce themselves here in just a second. But first, I just want to say I hope you guys enjoy the show. I hope you get some entertainment from it. And more than anything, I hope you guys get some betting insights because that's what we're really here to offer.
Hey, this is Rick Rockwell here, sports betting personality for GamblingSites.org and longtime sports bettor, longtime freelance writer, here to welcome you to the new Odds On Favorites podcast.
Hey guys, Taylor Smith here for GamblingSites.org. I typically write about football, baseball, basketball, and soccer, but you can catch me here on Odds On Favorites every week, getting going this summer and this fall, so catch us on YouTube or iTunes.
Okay, guys, I hope you're as excited as I am. This is the very first episode of Odds On Favorite. Let us get into it right now. Let's go. Let's do the what's happening section of Odds On Favorites. We're going to cover all the need-to-know sports news, sports betting news that can affect the odds and, just what's going on in general. So we're just going to dive right in here. Let's talk about Urban Meyer, guys. So let me pull up what I got here. So obviously y'all heard the news, what's going on with Urban Meyer. Where does that leave Ohio State? Where does that leave their odds? Where does that leave their championship odds? Like, what are we looking at, Rick? I see you put a news post up and some prop bet articles on him earlier in the week. What are we looking at?
Okay, first of all, Urban Meyer. Listen, I wrote a week ago when I did this prop bet article that I believe he would get suspended, okay? But I said it was the under 4.5 because I had a feeling, and Ohio State proved me right, that there was no way they would suspend him heading into the main portion of the Big Ten season. So with that said, I knew he would be back before Game 5, which is against Penn State in Happy Valley. So what did Ohio State do? They suspended him for 3 games. Those 3 games are meaningless games, first of all. Oregon State went 1-11 last year. Rutgers has never even beat Ohio State. And TCU has won 1 time against Ohio State in their career head-to-head matchups. Okay, so bottom line is this. It's a fraud. What Ohio State did was a fraud. Urban Meyer should have been suspended for the year if they thought he did something wrong. And I'm not the only one who feels like this. From a lot of what I've seen on social media, there's a lot of people upset over the fact that this was really just a waste of time. This was, as I put in the end of my article, football politics at its best. That's what it comes down to. Urban Meyer wins, brings in a lot of money. Ohio State doesn't want to suspend him for the main portion of their schedule. Plain and simple. It's a joke. However, if you guys listen to me, he would have won money on the suspension and the under.
I was going to say, did you take that? Did you win some money? Taylor, what about you, man? Any takes on Urban Meyer?
Yeah, he should have been fired, for one thing. He has this apparently impeccable memory, and all of a sudden he can't remember what happened 3 years ago, whatever it was. It's a total joke, like Rick was saying. He misses Oregon State, he misses Rutgers, and he misses TCU. So I went to TCU. I am a shameless TCU homer. The game is in Arlington, Texas, 20 minutes from TCU. TCU is actually a good team. There's a slight chance they actually lose that game. And if they do, though, the committee will just blame it on Urban Meyer not being there. And because Ohio State's Ohio State, they bring in a ton of money for the NCAA. Even if they lose, that's not going to really negatively affect their playoff hopes, I wouldn't think, especially if they go unbeaten after Urban comes back. He should have been fired. The suspension's a joke. It's a fraud, like Rick was saying. But it's not surprising at all. He's 73-8. He's won a title there. He's their whole program now. He brought them back from the dead after Jim Tressel, that whole thing. So, it's not shocking. It's just ridiculous.
Is this the end of it, or are we going to see a little bit more? More to come from it?
I think this is it for now. Because if Ohio State tries to do anything else after this, or if they open another investigation, unless some way, somehow, something criminally is attached to Urban Meyer's moving forward, it's done. Like, Ohio State put on a show, and They appeased some of the critics, not all of the critics, and they obviously appeased their football fans in, the tens of millions of dollars. You got to keep in mind, this is the number 2 most generated revenue in college football for the Big Ten. Like, they generate tons of money, tens of millions of dollars a year. So there's no way they're going to risk that.
All right. We're going to move on to our next topic. We're going to talk about the Browns picking up some betting traction. How or why? Well, let's dive into it. Rick, you did a blog on the Browns gaining some steam here, looking at some of their odds. Let's see. You predicted that they could win 5 games, possibly 6. Betting lines at plus 140 for the under. What's your reasons for that?
Okay, so, I found it kind of surprising reading in the news how the Browns were getting a lot of betting action in Vegas. I was like, Cleveland Browns? Is there another Browns I'm missing out on here? Because I've watched their preseason games. Yeah, they look good against Buffalo. They got some talent and stuff. But the fact that people are betting on them to win 6 or more games is crazy. There's no way they're going to win more than 5. I looked at their schedule. They'll be lucky if they win 5. Now, they got a lot of talent because they picked up guys like Jarvis Landry, Carlos Hyde. They traded for Tyrod Taylor. Josh Gordon will be back. They've added pieces on the defense. They've got talent. But to go from 0-16 to 6-10 or above, that's just ridiculous. And they've only won 1 game in the last 2 years. 1. Just 1. So how do you think they're going to go to 6 or more? No, I'm taking the under. And not only that, I found it hilarious. In the same news piece, they were saying that only the Steelers and the Raiders got more betting action to win the AFC than the Browns. Are you kidding me? The Browns win the AFC? What freaking bizarro world are we living in where the Browns are going to win the AFC? That's not going to happen for at least 5-10 more years. Take the Browns under. Don't even look at them to win their division. Steelers got it on lockdown. Don't even look at them to win the conference because the Patriots and Steelers are 10 times better than Cleveland. I can't even believe it.
What about their Super Bowl odds at plus 6,600? You don't want to take that?
I wouldn't even touch it. No, wouldn't even touch it. It's a waste of money.
Taylor, what about you, man? What do you got for the Browns?
Yeah, I mean, Hugh Jackson's 1-31 in 2 years as their head coach. They do have more talent than they have had in years past. But like Rick was saying, they have a tough schedule. They play the AFC West. So they got, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Chiefs, who should be good, and the Broncos. They also play the NFC South. So you got Carolina, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, kind of wobbly, and Atlanta. They have legit Super Bowl contenders up and down the schedule. They open against Pittsburgh. They got New Orleans after that. They're looking at 0-2 right there on the road in New Orleans. They could bounce back after that against the Jets. But, I mean, Tyrod Taylor's supposed to be the reason you're going to be in the Super Bowl this year. And Baker Mayfield,
He took the Bills to the playoffs, man. He took the Bills to the playoffs.
That's one miracle he did perform, but I don't think he can do it back-to-back years. I mean, they got decent defensive talent. They got that really fat offensive line coach from Hard Knocks. I don't know if you've seen him. They got that going for them. But
who doesn't have a fat offensive line coach, first of all?
It's probably a job requirement, yeah.
Tyrod Taylor does not walk on water. He's not performing another miracle. He didn't lead Buffalo to the playoffs. That defense led Buffalo to the playoffs.
And if Cleveland gets there, it'll be the defense. The defense will have to lead Cleveland.
Yes.
Their offensive talent outside of Landry is pretty unproven. They lost Joe Thomas, maybe the best offensive lineman in the whole league. I don't know. I don't buy it. Their division's not that great. You got the Bengals and the Ravens kind of floating, in the toilet. But Browns Super Bowl, that's ridiculous.
I do think the Browns can sweep the Bengals this year. The Browns will be lucky if they don't finish last in the division because the Bengals might be worse. I think they can split with the Ravens. I honestly believe the one game on their schedule that they're going to win is versus the Buccaneers, as Taylor brought up. But they've got 2
That's on the road, though. I mean, it's not a sure thing.
Bucs are terrible. They're going to be the worst team in the NFC this year. Winston is a bust. I'm calling it now. He is a bust. And he's going to be suspended for the first portion of the season. Tampa's done. They play in one of the hardest divisions. They're terrible. They're the only team worse than the Browns.
The Browns get the Jets at home on Thursday night in Week 3. That's winnable, at least.
you know what? That's potentially their first win, and in Cleveland, whenever they win their first game, it's free beer for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember seeing that. That'd be sweet. All right, guys. I'd love to get into Cleveland a little bit more. I'd love to talk about Baker Mayfield, but I got to keep us rolling here. Maybe we'll get into that later on in different segments or in other episodes. What I wanted to skip to next is I want to go to Taylor. I want to talk about Khalil Mack. You did a blog on him and where his landing spot could be. You broke down a couple different teams and gave the odds. He's looking at Oakland Raiders possibly at plus 150, Green Bay Packers 275. I think Pats are the biggest long shot at plus 1,000. There's probably some other ones in there as well. Just that's just some of the ones you included. What are you thinking? What's your thinking here? What's your pick for where Khalil Mack will end up?
I don't see how the Raiders can be that reckless and let him go. He's the best defender on the team, maybe the best overall player on the team. He had 10.5 sacks last year, third year in a row with at least 10. They're at a contract impasse, and he wants more than they're willing to pay right now. They're being a little frugal with it. I think the Raiders, him staying with the Raiders is still the most likely outcome, and there's decent profit potential plus 150. That's not terrible. But if he does leave, it seems like the Packers are pretty heavy favorites. They have 2 first-round picks next season. They can dangle at least one of those and maybe another one, 2020. Nick Perry is also a player they could dangle, kind of similar, not as good, but, you could do worse than getting Nick Perry for Khalil Mack with the 2 draft picks. So Packers plus 275 is interesting. I still think him staying in Oakland's most likely, but Green Bay is kind of sneaky at plus 275.
Greg, what about you, man? What would you take on this one?
I am a huge Khalil Mack fan ever since his days at U of B. Come on, Cody. He's playing college football in Buffalo. I love him. He is a freak of nature. He is an awesome, awesome defensive player. I think the Raiders are foolish for not trying to lock him in long term. I know he's asking for at least $20 million a year. That's what the reports are saying. Reports are also saying if the Raiders are to trade him, they want at least a first and a third, possibly 2 first-round picks. That's a lot. So not only does the new team have to pay $20+ million a year and a huge signing bonus, now they got to give up at least 2 high draft picks. That's going to be hard to pull off. I did read, however, recently that the Jets reached out to the Raiders about a potential trade. I know they were on the list of potential trade partners, so they could be creeping up. But ultimately, I think the price tag's too high. I think the draft picks they're asking for is too high, and I agree with Taylor here. I believe he's going to stay with the Raiders at least for this season.
I think one team to watch. Sorry to cut you off. One team to watch would be Dallas. They got some problems there. DeMarcus Lawrence is free after the year. David Irving's free after the season, and he's suspended the first 4 games. We know Jerry Jones will be splashy, and he's not afraid to make big moves like that. Cowboys have $50 million in cap space ahead of next year. So I don't think he's going to go this year, but I think, moving forward, maybe next year they're a team to watch.
Yeah, same with Buffalo. They got a huge cap space. Like we just said, he played college ball there. Buffalo would love to have him back. They've got some trade pieces. They've got a lot of salary heading into next year. They could be also, as Taylor was just mentioning, like Dallas, they could be another potential, I don't know if you want to call him a dark horse, but another potential landing spot. And I, for one, I know Cody, K. Millie Mill, I know you're going to love it if Buffalo gets him.
Indeed, I would. But for this year, both you guys probably sticking with staying at Oakland Raiders at plus 150.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. On that same note, on ideas of trades and players, Taylor, you did another article on Teddy Bridgewater. Will he get traded before week 1? Looking at your article here, we got the Jags at plus 150. That's actually the biggest because then it jumps to the Rams at plus 600, and then the plus 1,200 for the Dolphins at the long shot. Let's see. So you took the Jags at plus 150, and then followed by the Rams at plus 600. Which one do you think is more likely?
I think the Jags is more likely. So the deal with the Jets is they have 3 quarterbacks. All 3 could probably start for somebody. They signed Bridgewater. They still have Josh McCown, and they obviously drafted Sam Darnold. Darnold is the guy of the future. He's obviously not going anywhere. McCown's 39. Not really a robust trade market for a 39-year-old. Bridgewater's only 25. He did have a bad knee injury, but he seems to be back from that. The Jets GM basically said if some team wants to come trade for him, then they're open for business. The Jags are the favorite because they were in the AFC title game a year ago, despite Blake Bortles being their quarterback. Bortles has never really taken the next step that many expected him to. He's not horrible. There are worse quarterbacks out there, but the Jaguars seem to have a championship caliber roster outside of the quarterback. I don't know if Bridgewater's the guy that would take them to the next level, but I think they would do well to give Bortles at least some competition for that starting job. So plus 150, they make the most sense. The other teams on the list, the Rams, the Broncos, the Dolphins, they would do it because they need a backup. And the Jaguars could potentially start Bridgewater. The Rams obviously aren't replacing Goff. The Broncos have Keenum, and the Dolphins have Ryan Tannehill. So I think the Jags make the most sense for a lot of reasons at plus 150. And I kind of like that more than the idea of him staying there. I feel like he's pretty much a lock to get traded, unless they have an injury.
Hey, I agree. I can't see any scenario other than an injury the Jets keeping Teddy Bridgewater. He's got a movable contract, first of all. Second of all, Darnold has been playing just as well as anybody in the preseason. So there's a good chance that the Jets roll with Darnold to start the season ahead of McCown and Bridgewater. Bridgewater is not going to beat them two out for the starting quarterback spot. The best bet is to trade Bridgewater, get some draft picks, continue to build the team. I don't see them trade into the Dolphins. I can't see an interdivision trade. I don't see the Rams having the draft picks to trade. They just traded with the Patriots in the offseason. They made multiple trades and stuff. I do agree with Taylor, though. I think Jacksonville makes the most sense. I believe, although the Jaguars gave Bortles a contract extension in the offseason, I do believe they're not 100% confident in him. I think he was just the best option that made the most sense at the time. But if they can get someone with the talent of Bridgewater, who has, in my opinion, a higher ceiling than Bortles, I think they should go with Bridgewater. I like that pick. I agree with my co-host here, Taylor.
Awesome. Perfect. Appreciate that, you guys. All right, so for what's happening segment, the last topic I want to get into for what's trending now is I want to talk about Alabama. I want to talk about Nick Saban, and I want to talk about how their odds to win the college football championships is plus 190. I don't know. I'm gonna let you guys roll with this one. Talk to me about Alabama. Do they really deserve to have that spot at the number 1 pick again at plus 190? Are you gonna take that bet? What are you guys thinking?
I like how you use those play on words here. Let's roll with this. Roll Tide. Here we go. So listen, Alabama is easily the favorite to win the national title this year. Year in and year out, they have the best talent, or at least from top to bottom, the most talent out of any of the top college teams. I know the top 5 were also Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Wisconsin was in the mix as well. Ohio State, we've already talked about them, so I'm not going to bring them up in this segment or this topic, but I will say this: Clemson is a contender. They're a legit threat this year. If they can have consistent quarterback play, they will be more of a threat to upset Alabama for the national title. As of right now, for the 3rd straight year, Alabama is the number 1 preseason ranked team. They deserve it. They are the best team. I believe they will eventually win another national title this year. I don't see any other team that has the same level of talent on offense and defense that Alabama has. It's just insane. Every single season, they are either one or the best team in college football. It's insane. Give me Alabama plus 190.
Taylor,
for a long shot, Wisconsin. I like the Badgers this year. They're looking tough. They're going to have a great run game, great defense.
plus 2,500 for Wisconsin. It's not good value. They're going to take it.
That's good value right there, exactly. Plus 2,500. They're right below Ohio State in terms of odds on winning the Big Ten. They're going to win their division of the Big Ten. They're going to take on Ohio State again in the Big Ten championship game. And if they can get past Ohio State, which they should, because Urban Meyer should be fired or at least suspended for the year, but I won't go into that anymore. Wisconsin has a legit threat in the Big Ten. And if they win the Big Ten, they'll go to the playoffs. And they have the type of team that can grind out a win. So we'll see. Good value there.
Taylor, anything on Alabama from you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't see how you could pick anybody else at this point. Every year they seem to come in as the number one ranked team. They can even lose during the regular season and still, skirt their way through. Their schedule is pretty much a total breeze this year. They got Auburn as their toughest game, but that's at home in the final game of the year. They don't face Georgia during the regular season. That's the biggest threat to them in the SEC. It seems, I mean, obviously a lot can happen and teams can falter and stuff, but it seems like kind of a lock that those two score off again in the SEC title game. And it could be a national championship preview again, but, they won the national title. They came back with their backup quarterback coming on at halftime. And they just have an insane amount of talent, and I don't see how teams can really contend with that. They have a breezy out-of-conference schedule. They play Citadel. They play Arkansas State. They don't really test themselves because they don't have to, because they know they're going to be there at the end.
I always call that the cupcake portion of the schedule. It's basically just preseason for some of these teams.
Yeah.
Like we talked about with Ohio State and Urban Meyer. These are easy wins. Teams at this level can walk through opponents like Citadel or anybody like that. It's all it is Alabama and other schools doing charity work for these college football programs because they get a lot of money for playing Alabama. Other than that, that's no point.
So Nick Saban and Alabama to take another college championship this year at plus 190.
It's hard to argue against that.
Yep.
Clemson's the team that I think has the best chance of beating them, just because they have a super experienced defense. Their quarterback's a little unproven, but I think Clemson plus 350, I think. That's not bad.
I got them online right now at plus 300, but still not bad.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get consistent QB play, like when they had Deshaun Watson there, they do have a shot at beating Alabama in the national title game.
All right, that covers all the topics I wanted to go over. Hey guys, welcome to the Gimme Prop section of Odds On Favorites. Here we're going to talk about different prop bets that Rick and Taylor, our GamblingSites.org authors, have written on GamblingSites.org on our blog section. Rick, the first prop bet that I want to look at is which QB will throw the most touchdowns in 2018. I'm looking at your article now, looking at some of the odds. We got Aaron Rodgers at the top, the most favorite, plus 350. Tom Brady at 375. Drew Brees at 650. What are you thinking here? What's your pick? Are you going to go with that pick of Aaron Rodgers, with who's the favorite? Or are you going to go something different?
No, my pick for this is Drew Brees.
Drew Brees.
And the Saints passing game will be back this year. I think they relied heavily on the running game last year, partly because of the success, but also because the offensive line wasn't great in the passing game. Some of the receivers were inconsistent. It was Drew Brees' lowest numbers in many years other than his completion percentage. I think back to 2003, the last time he threw that few touchdown passes. I think he's going to lead it this year. He's done it 4 times before in his career. I don't think Rodgers is going to do it. Not with that group of receivers. Who knows with old man Brady? But they just released their third receiver this preseason, so I don't know who's going to throw it to with Edelman out for the first 4 games with his suspension. Surprisingly, though, most people don't realize this. Russell Wilson led the league last year in touchdown passes. I think he could be some betting value this year because Seattle's going to have to throw the ball a lot again. But Drew Brees makes the most sense to me.
Got any long shot picks?
Oh, long shots.
Deshaun Watson. He threw 19 touchdowns in 7 games last year. He's got maybe the most underrated receiver in football, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller. They had a nice rapport last year. Will Fuller's problem is that he's hurt all the time. But when he's healthy, he's a super dynamic deep threat. Bruce Ellington, another deep threat. Braxton Miller, he's kind of a playmaker in space. They don't really have a reliable tight end, which is kind of a problem. But, they were a hugely successful offense when Watson was in there last year. I'm optimistic he can come back from the ACL and just kind of be the same guy he was before. He will throw plenty of picks, but I think, he's not afraid to look for the big play. The Texans were routinely putting up like 40 points when he was in there last year. So I think, Watson for plus 1,000, that's a great value.
Hard to argue that. Hard to argue against that. I'm a huge fan of Watson. I won a lot of money on him in Clemson when he was in college, and I think he's a dynamic quarterback. I think he does a lot for Houston. I think he is going to be the difference between them going to the playoffs. I love what he did with Hopkins last year when they were playing together. I like that pick, Taylor, but Drew Brees, got to get him this year.
All right. Actually, Taylor, I'm just going to go right back to you, man. You did a blog post on 2019 NBA Rookie of the Year. We're going to switch from NFL to NBA here a little bit. Just looking here at your article. Let's see, your favorite values for Rookie of the Year next season.
Luka Doncic.
Doncic, plus 330. Colin Sexton, plus 800. DeAndre Ayton at plus 380. Ooh, you took Sexton over Ayton.
I took Sexton over Ayton just because of the value, plus 650 instead of plus 380. I think Ayton's going to have a great year, but he's in Phoenix. He's kind of overshadowed by Devin Booker. TJ Warren's a nice player. Josh Jackson's going to take a lot of shots. So I think Ayton might kind of suffer from being a secondary or tertiary offensive option at first. He'll put up great rebounding numbers. He can block shots. But the Suns are going to be bad again next year. Not really going to help his case. I think the Cavs have a chance to be somewhat sneaky. They lost LeBron, obviously. That's a little bit of a problem, but they still have Kevin Love. Colin Sexton,
problem, he says.
a little bit of a problem. Colin Sexton's going to get a chance, presumably, to start right away. If not right away, then early in the year. I imagine he will. He's a pretty confident player. He can score, great quickness and stuff. Plus 650, I think he can do worse. Luka Doncic, though, he was the number 3 pick. He was the EuroLeague MVP last year, which is, thought by many to be the second best league in the world. EuroLeague MVP as a 19-year-old for Real Madrid. He's now going to Dallas. They still have Dirk, but he's kind of a sixth-man type at this point. I think Doncic is going to go in right away with a chance to start. I imagine he'll be a focal point of the offense. I think the Mavs are another team that can kind of exceed expectations. Doncic just seems like the most NBA-ready rookie in the class. It's a deep class. He'll have a lot of competition. But I think Doncic, despite being the favorite at plus 330, they're still pretty good value. So I like that.
Nice. Rick, anything on NBA Rookie of the Year for you?
Man, Taylor, you gave no love to Sacramento. The 916, Sacktown, the Kings.
Sacktown deserves no love for NBA.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Listen, not only do they have one, but they have 2 Rookie of the Year candidates this year. I like Bagley. I think he can be a stud. However, my pick is Harry Giles. He is the most ready to play this year. He was redshirted last year. He is a stud. He has a higher ceiling than anybody else in this rookie class. If he's healthy, he can be a superstar. We thought he was going to go down the Greg Oden path. Thank God that didn't happen. Thank God the Kings actually had some sense and rested him and got him healthier. His teammates say he could be Rookie of the Year. Pundits, critics, fans, everybody are saying that he has the potential. I'm picking him plus 4,000. Yes, I'm going with a long shot to win the Rookie of the Year. I think once he gets going, once he proves he's healthy, once he proves he can take the grind of the NBA season, he's going to tear it up.
I think that's a good pick. That's really off the board because he was drafted last year. No one's really going to think about it. There's going to be a lot more attention on Bagley, like you were saying. Another guy, I think he was the number 1 rated high school prospect. He just got hurt when he was at Duke, so we never really saw him. Another guy in a similar boat is Michael Porter.
Yeah.
The Nuggets took him 14th, I believe, last pick of the lottery. He was the number 1 rated prospect in his high school class. He had a hip problem last year, and I think maybe a back injury. So he only played a handful of games for Missouri, but it's a super high upside pick at 14 they got. You can get Porter at plus 1,200. I'm not sure how much playing time he'll get just because the Nuggets, I think, are going to be a playoff team this year, so he might kind of take a back seat. But I like your call at plus 4,000 there for Harry Giles. But Porter's a similar case at plus 1,200.
Go Kings!
Another one, I wanted to mention this. He doesn't have odds because he was a second-round pick this year. DeAnthony Melton, he's a rocket. They took him in the second round. The problem, again, there is that he may not play. He's a guard, and they happen to have a couple pretty good guards. But he was really good in Summer League. It looks like he's rounded his offensive game into form since he took a year off from college after starting at USC. He's kind of a defense-first guy, but he averaged 16 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals at Summer League. I know it's Summer League, you can't really put too much into that. But if you can find odds on Melton, I think that's a decent punt bet. But I guess the Giles call would be your super long shot.
Yes.
Giles.
Okay. So we're going to switch gears from NFL to NBA to Jeopardy. Taylor, you did a prop bet article on who will replace Alex Trebek. Looking at your article, looking at some of the odds, Laura Coates, Alex Faust, plus 200, plus 300, Anderson Cooper, plus 500, Will Ferrell in there, plus 700. That's pretty funny. Oprah Winfrey at plus 4,000. All right.
Uh-huh.
What do we got? What's your pick?
So I think I like Anderson Cooper plus 500. So Trebek he was asked about who he wants to succeed him when his contract is up in 2020. He mentioned Laura Coates, who's a CNN legal analyst, and he mentioned Alex Faust, who's the 28-year-old play-by-play man of the LA Kings. Talk about a couple of off-the-board picks. But I think, that's possible. I don't think Alex Faust is reasonable since he just took the Kings job. I think he'd prefer to probably stick with that. Laura Coates, kind of interesting, but I think Anderson Cooper plus 500 is a better value. He's kind of done he's a news guy, obviously, but he's done some kind of entertainment-y stuff. He does a CNN New Year's Eve thing where he kind of shows personality every now and then. I think he's a decent pick. Another one, though, that I really like is Dan Patrick at plus 800. I'm sure you probably know Dan Patrick if you're watching this, the guy that does NBC's pregame, postgame radio show, former ESPN guy. He hosts Sports Jeopardy now, which is on NBC Sports Network, I believe, usually at like 2 in the morning. But if you're up at 2 in the morning, you can catch it. So he kind of, he's familiar with the job. He hosts Jeopardy, literally. He's good at it. He's personable. Plus 800, I think that's pretty good value too.
What about Will Ferrell? That's my want pick. I want to see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, if Will Ferrell's going to do his Alex Trebek, then yeah, that's what we want. But I kind of feel like he was thrown in there as a joke.
Yeah.
It's a good joke, though.
Who's got better odds than Dan Patrick?
Yeah, I don't know who made these odds. They spelled Coates wrong, so, it's kind of dubious.
Awesome. Rick, what about you, man? You got any input on this one?
I would love Will Ferrell to be the host of Jeopardy.
Yeah, thank you.
Greatest game show ever. However, I do have one question. How is Steve Harvey not on that list? The guy hosts everything. How's he not on the list?
It's a good call.
And lastly, I don't think there's going to be anybody else. I think Alex Trebek will literally be on that show until he dies on the show.
Literally,
awesome.
He died.
You can get
Dies
Alex
right on the
Trebek
show.
renewing his contract at plus 750.
That's what I'm going with.
Okay.
I think he's
Never
like
leave.
78, but he seems youthful.
He's never leaving.
He looks like he's not 78. Yeah, plus 750. That's probably your long shot play. That and Dan Patrick plus 800. But
I like Dan Patrick pick. That was a good one. But I'm going with Trebek staying there for life.
that's probably the most likely outcome. He'll just die in the middle of a question.
Yeah, like just while asking a question, just done. Okay. Let's go back to our roots here. Let's go back to NFL. Taylor, you did an article on who the Browns' starting quarterback will be. Is it going to be Baker Mayfield? Is it going to be Tyrod Taylor? Let's say I got Tyrod Taylor minus 600. I got Baker Mayfield at plus 370. What's your pick? What do we got?
It seems like it's going to be Taylor. That's what they've been saying since they traded for him. He's played pretty well in the preseason, so they haven't really given he hasn't given them a reason to bench him. Baker's been good. I would not be shocked if we saw him start at some point. If the Browns struggle, which is a very real possibility, we could see Baker, fairly early in the year. But unless Tyrod gets hurt, I don't really see a path for Baker to start week 1. So minus 600, you're not making any money on that bet, but that's probably the only way to go.
Rick, you agree? Disagree?
Going with Taylor. I agree. Hugh Jackson has said Tyrod was the starter from day one when they traded for him. Baker Mayfield looked good in the first preseason game against the Giants. He struggled some against Buffalo, but he still has shown the talent and the playmaking ability that they want in a quarterback. However, Taylor has done nothing to lose his starting job. So unless he gets injured in the preseason, I don't see Baker Mayfield starting until at least closer to the halfway point in the season. Because by then, Cleveland will probably be 1-7 with their win over Tampa Bay.
All right, guys, I'm seeing my mark right here. We got to end the Give Me Props section, odds on favorites here. We're going to get into our next section. Welcome to the spread and butter portion of our show. This is quite possibly my favorite segment that we're going to do. We are going to pick a couple games. This week we're going to talk about 5 NFL games. We're going to talk only about the spread. We're going to have Rick and Taylor talk about where the value lies, which teams they want to take. So we're just going to dive right into it here. I'm just going to pick a game. Guys, let's go with the Oakland Raiders and the Green Bay Packers. We have a spread of 6. The Oakland Raiders are favored at -6 points, and the Green Bay Packers are the underdogs at +6 points. Rick, take it away for me, man. What do you think?
Hey, listen, that's one of the biggest lines, if not the biggest line of the week, and I'm actually kind of surprised.
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay, I am surprised that Green Bay is that big of an underdog. They've been scoring 40-something points a game. They put up 50-plus last week against Pittsburgh in Green Bay. I believe they have the firepower to still score a lot this week, even though Oakland's defense has been playing well. But come on now, who honestly thinks the Raiders are going to win by a touchdown or more? I don't. Taking the Packers in the points.
Taylor, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I agree with Rick. I think the Packers, like he was saying, they've been putting up points by the boatload. The Raiders say their starters are going to play into the second quarter. We didn't see them at all last week against the Rams since they play in week 1. So it'll be interesting to see. They might be a little rusty since, they've been off for a while. We can see what Derek Carr has in his bag. But I think the Packers, it's on the road, but it's preseason. So how much does that really matter? I just kind of like the Packers more here. So I think it's kind of a rare chance to get them as an underdog. So I like that bet.
Very cool, very cool. Let's jump into another one here. To the Pats and the Panthers, we have a spread of 1. The Carolina Panthers are favored at -1 point, and the New England Patriots at +1. Taylor, let you take the lead on this one.
Again, it's kind of a weird deal to see the Patriots as a dog, even in preseason. Last week, I believe it was, we saw Tom Brady play the full first half. He looked pretty good, threw a couple touchdown passes against, I believe, the Eagles in a Super Bowl rematch. Carolina's kind of a middling NFC team. We never really know what to expect from them on a year-to-year basis. Again, though, I just kind of like New England as a road underdog. It's a decent value, -110, +1/2. I don't know. I think I'm taking New England on that.
Yeah, I'm not taking the Patriots this week. Last week I told you guys to take the over in the Eagles-Patriots game, and it hit. This week I'm telling you to take Panthers at home. Patriots have not played on the road yet this preseason. They just released another receiver. That's the third one gone in the preseason in their training camp. Another injury and another receiver gone. I don't know who Brady's going to throw it to. Plus, most teams, they go into at least the second quarter, if not into the third quarter, one series. This is the dress rehearsal for the regular season. So we see a lot of the starters. We're not going to need to see Brady go into the third quarter. We don't even need to see him going in the second quarter. We know what Brady can do. The Patriots know what Brady can do. If anything, they need to know what some of the backups can do. With that said, I think Carolina has better depth with their backups than the Patriots do. And I'm going with Carolina at home this week to win over New England. Covering the spread.
All right. Perfect. Let's get into the next game. Let's see which one we want to take. Let's go with the Chiefs and the Bears. We got a spread of 2. We got the Chicago Bears favored at -2 and the Kansas City Chiefs at +2. Rick, take it away, man.
The Bears, but I'm not taking them. I'm going with the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a better team from top to bottom. The Bears need this preseason game to see how well their starters are going to do on both sides of the ball. They've had some injuries. They've had some people hold out. So they need to get them in there. They need to get to see what some of these high draft picks can do, some of these high free agents they got. My man Allen Robinson came from Jacksonville. He's a former Penn State player, by the way. I like the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs have more talent on both sides of the ball. Mahomes is going to be a stud this year as long as he doesn't throw picks. I think Kansas City getting points going into Chicago. That's the play. We're taking the Chiefs. Da Chiefs.
Da Chiefs. Taylor, what about you, man? Da Chiefs or Da Bears?
I'm going with Da Chiefs. I think, they got to figure this thing out. The Chiefs have legit expectations. They traded Alex Smith, which was pretty risky. They're going with Pat Mahomes, second-year quarterback. We only saw him play one game, I believe, last year. Last game of the season. He's looked kind of hit or miss during the preseason so far. Last week, he threw a touchdown and an interception. I think the Chiefs kind of needed to run their starters out there for a good amount of time this week with the season starting in just a couple weeks. I'm not going to be picking the Bears very often in general. This is their fourth preseason game already. I'm not sure how they're going to approach that. They're at home, which is fine. But I think, with Mahomes, they got to figure out how Sammy Watkins is going to fit into this thing. He's never really become anything, as you guys both well know. So I think the Chiefs will kind of give it a go here. And I think, the talent speaks for itself. And Kansas City as an underdog is a great bet.
Were you taking shots at my Bills?
No, I was feeling sorry for you guys. You had Sammy Watkins, these big aspirations and expectations, and then just nothing.
Nothing. Well, not
The
Bill.
most overpaid receiver in the league. Sammy Watkins, the most overpaid receiver in the league.
Yeah.
It's not the Bills problem anymore, so I'm not too worried about it. Speaking of the Bills, let's do the Bills. Let's see. Who do they got? They got the Bengals. Bills and Bengals, 1.5-point spread. Let's see. So, not a big surprise that am I reading that wrong? No, I'm not. Buffalo Bills, favored, minus 1.5 points. Cincinnati Bengals, plus 1.5 points. I'm obviously biased. Rick, what do you think?
Oh, come on now. We're going with the Bills here, and here's why. This is the best reason. Josh Allen's getting a start. He has looked like a stud this preseason. He can make throws that nobody else on the team can make. He can make throws that basically the majority of the starting quarterbacks in the league can't make. He will play at least a half, maybe into the third quarter. I think the team's going to be excited, going to be fired up that he's playing, that he's starting. I think they're going to give it their best. They're going to want to make him look good. Not only that, I think the fans are going to be appreciative of the Bengals there because Andy Dalton's coming to town. And with that said, if we all remember, it was Dalton's pass that helped get Buffalo into the playoffs last year. So Buffalo, basically it's going to be a happy, fun, good time.
I remember watching that game. I remember jumping and screaming. Oh, man, I remember that game so well.
I was in tears. Bottom line, it doesn't matter. Buffalo's going to win by at least a field goal. Take the points. Go Bills.
Is Dalton going to get a standing ovation?
Dalton gets a standing ovation without a doubt.
Wonder if there's prop bets.
There should be, man.
I'd take that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Bengals. Sorry, fellas.
All right.
Josh Allen has looked good in the preseason, but he still was a super high-risk draft pick. The matchup against the Bengals isn't particularly difficult. I just kind of like the experience the Bengals have on offense as opposed to what the Bills are doing. I feel like they might be a little bit conservative, bringing Allen along, still kind of getting to know everybody, getting to know the playbook and all that. Rookie quarterbacks are super volatile. I know it's preseason, things can happen, everything's unpredictable. But if we see Dalton with the crowd behind him and everything coming in there, pumping everybody up on the road, I don't know. I kind of like the Bengals as underdogs again. But then again, I'm kind of a sucker for value bets. So, I like the Bengals though.
Wow. All right. All right. What's that?
Drinking the haterade.
Drinking the haterade.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Rams then, Taylor. Who do they play? Let's see. Rams and Texans. All right, let's see if I can pull up the spread here. I remember looking at it last. Yeah, 3. Okay, so Rams are favored, -3. Houston Texans +3. Taylor, I'll let you take the lead on this one. I've talked to both you guys. I know both you and Rick, your stance is on the Rams. What about specifically this game with the 3-point spread going in?
Yeah, so the Rams are at home. Like the Raiders, we didn't see the starters last week. Sean McVay said the starters will play this week. He says they're going to get real live game action, which means they're playing. The Texans, you know how I feel about Deshaun Watson. Texans are my team, but I live near LA, so I'm kind of into the Rams too. I think they're the best team in the league, as I said before. I can see a high-scoring game here. The Rams have a super high-powered offense. The Texans can be pretty dynamic with the deep ball and all that. Texans defense has looked really good, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of combat the Rams and all they have going on. I think I'm going to side with the Rams as favorites in this one, but I'm not feeling great about it.
Rick, are you gonna take the Rams also and feel a little better? Or?
I'm going with the Rams this one. I'm not taking Taylor's Houston Texans. Not taking.
Going against the Texans is a pretty profitable strategy. So
Yes. Well, maybe we'll see how this season plays out. But for this game, listen, the Texans haven't had most of their playmakers playing together this preseason yet. Hopkins hasn't even seen preseason action, if I'm correct. Fuller, I'm not even sure if he's played more than a couple plays, if at all. So this is going to be the first time that most of them get on the field, if they get on the field this week. I like what the Rams have on offense and defense. I think Houston's going to be in for a big challenge on the road this week. I'm going with the Rams. I think they're going to win closer to a touchdown.
Yeah, that spread seems kind of small, so I like that.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. We took 5 games. We covered the spreads of each of them. Hopefully, all you guys watching found some value out of some of the games that we picked, found some good reasonings. That does it for our spread and butter section. We're going to jump right into the next one. Okay, this is the risky bet portion of our show. For all you daredevils out there that want to take some riskier bets, we are going to try to identify a few for you. Rick, why don't we dive in with your risky bet of the week?
Okay, here we go. Listen, the 4th Grand Slam of the year, the U.S. Open, starts on Monday. Yep. And when you look at the odds, Serena Williams is favored plus 400 to win the tournament. I'm saying right here, right now, that is a risky bet. And here's why. Serena, obviously, we've all read and heard about, well, those of us who follow tennis have read and heard about Serena's comeback, her struggles after giving birth, recovering from that, dealing with depression, and everything else that she had to go through with I don't know if you would call it a high risk, but a difficult pregnancy. This year, she's been trying to work her way back. Now, people will point to Wimbledon that she made the finals. I will counter with that and say most of the favorites lost early at Wimbledon. So she got to almost cruise her way into the finals before she played anybody really of tough competition. Since Wimbledon, she's lost 2 of 3 matches. She has had poor showings in the tournaments over the summer since Wimbledon. And now she comes into the U.S. Open, where there are other players who play a lot better on hard court surface than they do at Wimbledon and on the grass. For example, Simona Halep, #1 women's player in the world. She plays much better on hard court. She was bounced in the 3rd round in Wimbledon. I see her going deep. In fact, I'm picking her to win the U.S. Open. Serena Williams, risky bet. She hasn't won the U.S. Open since 2014. I don't see her winning it yet. Not with her coming back from her physical and emotional struggles that she's had over the last year. Watch out.
All right, you guys heard it here. If you take Serena Williams, if you take Serena Williams as your risky bet, you take it up with this guy. Who? I'm sorry, I missed who. Who are you actually picking to win U.S. Open?
World's women #1 tennis player, Simona Halep.
Simona, perfect. So there you go. You heard it here. Let's see, Taylor. What about you, man? You got any risky bets for this week?
I do. Monday Night Football, soccer version. Manchester United hosting Tottenham Hotspur at Old Trafford as Rick dies in his chair. Manchester United, they're favored plus 154 to win. Tottenham is plus 181. The draw is plus 210. United's favored a little bit. It's basically a pick 'em. United look terrible so far. Their coach is a total drag. All the players hate him. He doesn't maximize his talent at all. They've spent the most money of any team in the world over the last 5 years. They have nothing to show for it. Tottenham going on the road. They've won both of their games so far. Manchester United just lost to Brighton and Hove Albion, which might be relegated from the Premier League this year. I think United's eventually going to fire Jose Mourinho as their head coach. I just don't really see them gaining any momentum at all under him. It's risky taking Tottenham on the road, plus 181, but I feel good about it. I don't trust United in the least. Tottenham are pretty much the same team they've been the last couple of years. They purchased no players this past summer, but it's been good enough to put them near the top of the Premier League the last 2-3 seasons. So I think Tottenham at plus 181 is certainly a risk, but that's also a good value, and I think they have a pretty good shot at paying it off for you.
All right, I'm going to take your word for it. I'm not a soccer man, so you just spoke a lot of Latin there to me, but hopefully the viewers got something out of that enjoy soccer, football, whoever is watching, whatever they call it. All right, so that was interesting. Rick, I was interesting to see Serena Williams come in as a risky bet for you. I thought you gave some good points there, though. So I don't know, it'll be an interesting week. Let's see what we got. I think that unless everybody else has anything else for risky bets. No? All right, guys. That's going to be it for this segment. We're going to jump right into the next one. I'm going to let Mr. Rick Rockwell here take 3 minutes. He's going to rant and rave about whatever he wants. I'm going to put 3 minutes on the timer. As soon as that's done, I'm going to cut him off. So, Rick, I'm going to get your timer here. Get going. All right, Rick, 3 minutes on the clock starting now.
Okay, so for many of us race fans, NASCAR is not racing this weekend, but I would like to turn my attention and your attention to another big race, and that race is the third of the Grand Tours in cycling. That's right, we're going to cycling here. The Vuelta a España. For those of us who don't speak Spanish, the Tour of Spain. My rant is this. Odds makers has put Richie Porte as the odds-on favorite to win this race. Richie freaking Porte. That's right. I said it. Richie Porte. Richie Porte has crashed out of the last two Tour de France's. That Richie Porte. Richie Porte, who has only finished as high as 5th place in any Grand Tour event. That Richie Porte. Richie Porte, who is leaving his team probably after this race. That Richie Porte. They picked him as the odds-on favorite to win. Give me a break. Richie Porte can't even finish a Grand Tour. He hasn't even – the last time he raced in the Vuelta was 2012. How are you going to make him the favorite? Please tell me. How are you going to make him the favorite? This is ridiculous. Just thinking about Richie Porte being the odds-on favorite gives me saddle sores. That's right. It gives me saddle sores. I can't take this. Listen. Stay away from Richie Porte. First of all, you don't even know if he's going to finish this race. This is a 3-week, grueling, 3,200-kilometer race throughout the entire country of Spain. Okay? Most of us have heard about the Tour de France. We're not as familiar with the Tour of Spain, the Vuelta a España. However, it's almost just as grueling. And this year, they're going to have plenty of mountain peaks. They're going to have time trials. I mean, this is going to be one of the tougher Vueltas we've seen in years. So, with that also said, Richie freaking Porte. There is no way this dude should be odds-on favorite to win. He shouldn't even be in the race. Anybody who bets on him deserves to lose your money. You're stupid. You shouldn't do it. Get away from him. Now listen, I tell you who to avoid. I'm going to tell you who to pick now. Okay, here we go. Nairo Quintana. That's right. The same Nairo who finished 10th in the Tour de France this year. The same Nairo who chokes in the Tour de France year after year now. The one who everybody says is going to win the Tour de France and who's the next big thing in cycling. Yes, This time, I'm picking him. He won the Vuelta in 2016. He didn't race in it last year. He has a better chance of winning it this year than Richie freaking Port. I'm telling you. Okay, Quintana is on the best team coming in, okay? Because Team Sky is not going to be there this year. They're not going to be there. Froome, Geraint Thomas, who just won the Tour de France, isn't going to be there. Quintana is on Team Movie Star. He has the top lieutenant.
That's it. That's three.
No,
That's three.
I'm not done. No.
You're done now. You're done now. You got
Sport.
If these guys want to hear more about cycling, they're going to have to hit you up on Twitter. There's your 3 minutes. This is our Rick's Rant section on odds-on favorite. Let's move on to the next one. Cut there. That's good. I like that.
Richie Port.
Richie freaking Port.
Richie freaking Port.
I'm starting a hashtag with that. I'm making a shirt. I couldn't believe it when I saw the odds-on favorite. As soon as I saw that, I was like, that's my rant. How are you going to pick a guy who doesn't even finish? He's never even won a Grand Tour. Oh, my goodness.
I know, right?
Yeah, cycling. I've seen all the tours. I know he hasn't finished.
So much tour.
Much tour, many cycles. Okay, guys, it is time for the easy money segment of odds-on favorites. People want to know where to put the money. They want to know where to get the easy money. They want to know how to win money. Everybody does. We are going to go to Rick. He is going to not talk to us about cycling. He's going to talk to us about something else where the easy money lies.
All right, here we go. I am going back to the U.S. Open. Now, I had mentioned that Serena Williams was a risky pick, the risky bet of the week. I'll tell you who is not a risk. That is the Joker, Novak Djokovic. The man is back. He has recovered from his injuries, okay? He won Wimbledon. He just defeated Roger Federer in Cincinnati at the Cincinnati Masters. He has a slight advantage career-wise over Nadal, a slight advantage over Federer career-wise, and I believe this is his tournament to win. And the easy money here is taking him all the way to at least the finals, okay? He is the favorite to win on the men's side, and with a healthy Djokovic playing on the hard court surface, he's going to be tough to beat. Listen, he's gone to at least 10 semifinals in his 12 appearances. That's right, 10. He's gone to at least 7 finals in his 12 appearances. Okay? He has only won 2 of them, so he's got 5 runner-ups. However, those were earlier in his career. Now that he's gotten older, now that Nadal and Federer are slowing down, this is Djokovic, man. This is Joker's era. He's going to win at the U.S. Open, I believe. That's my pick. But the easy money is to ride him all the way into the finals. You can just pencil him in to at least the semifinals. He's winning it. Easy money. You got it. You heard it here.
Heard it here. Odds-on favorites. Rick's King Djokovic. All right. Taylor, what about you, man? What do you got for us?
All right. Not NBA season, but I'm going with the NBA. So it's a long-term bet, obviously. Got to wait until maybe like July of next year. But I think easy money is LeBron James winning MVP. LeBron obviously left Cleveland, came out here to LA, joined the Lakers, kind of a rebuilding project. He's the only star in town. They spent the rest of the offseason signing a bunch of weirdos like Rajon Rondo to play with him. But you can get LeBron at plus 250 to win MVP next season. LeBron hasn't won MVP since 2013, which is ridiculous since he's been the best player in the league for over a decade. They've been using it the last few years as kind of a lifetime achievement for other guys that have come close. Russell Westbrook 2 years ago, James Harden last year. Steph Curry won back-to-back before that. I think LeBron's primary contender this year is going to be Anthony Davis with New Orleans. But LeBron's coming to play for the Lakers, the most prestigious franchise in the NBA. He's going to help bring them back to the playoffs. They haven't been in the playoffs since, I believe, 2013, the year they had Dwight Howard, that nightmare year. Any team with LeBron is essentially a lock for the playoffs. Even in the loaded Western Conference, I think he can make them at least a playoff team. I don't think they're going to the finals or winning a title or anything. But LeBron had his best statistical season of his career last year at the age of 33. He finished second in MVP voting behind Harden. I think if he, helps lift the Lakers back into, the top tier of NBA teams where they usually are and haven't been for the last half decade, I don't really see how they can not give him MVP. He deserves it every year. The league is real. but I think this is the year he finally wins his fifth.
Is,
So LeBron plus 250.
Is he the top favorite plus 250?
He's the favorite, yeah. Anthony Davis is plus 300, which I don't hate. You can also get Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Bucks at plus 400, which is somewhat appealing. If you want a sleeper, though, you got Kawhi Leonard for the Toronto Raptors at plus 800. Last year was a lost season. He got traded, forced his way out of San Antonio. Now he's in Toronto. I think the Raptors have a legitimate chance to at least make the NBA Finals. Kawhi is a top 5 player in the league when healthy, maybe the best two-way player in the league. And they added that, they traded DeMar DeRozan to get him. But if you want a value bet for MVP, it's Kawhi at plus 800. But I think LeBron for plus 250 is your easy money.
Hey, I'll tell you who's not an MVP. Richie freaking Port.
Richie freaking Port.
Yeah, Richie Port is the MVP of this show, I think. The breakthrough star of odds-on favorites, Richie Port.
There you go. You heard it here.
I'm glad you brought up Kawhi Leonard, though. I was going to ask about him. You said his odds are plus 800?
Yeah, plus 800. That's the second best odds of any player in the East, behind Giannis. Toronto should be the best team in the East, I think. So I don't hate that.
I don't hate that bet. I like Kawhi Leonard. I think he's a solid player. I don't absolutely think that's a good bet to take for him to win MVP. I think I would side with you, and I'm taking LeBron at plus 250. But I do like Kawhi Leonard very, very greatly as a player. So I was going to ask about him what his odds were, because I didn't have it up right now. Okay, for all those watching, that does it for our Easy Money segment. You heard it here.